Hi, my name's Todd. Welcome back to the Laundry List. Hope you had a great week. We're excited. We just did a little hot yoga, had a little breakfast, and we are feeling very alive and very grateful. We got Blake here, and we got a very special guest as well. A friend of mine who I've known for a while, and we're looking forward to talking to him. Before we get too deep in conversation, Blake's going to read the laundry list, which are characteristics and behaviors we had as kids growing up dysfunctional homes and abusive homes. I heard the other day a good quote for what abuse is, and he said, "Abuse is anything where the absence of love is. Anything where there's not love is abuse." And I thought that was a great quote. So Blake's going to read the laundry list, and then once we do the work, however we do the work, whether it's through ACA, psychedelics, meditation, religion, however you get to that work of self-love, then you get the promises, which Blake will read after the laundry list. So, Blake, if you don't mind, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. This is the laundry list. 1, we became isolated and afraid of people and authority figures. 2, we became approval seekers and lost our identity in the process. 3, we were frightened by angry people and any personal criticism. 4, we either become alcoholics, marry them, or both, or find another compulsive personality, such as a workaholic, to fulfill our sick abandonment needs. 5, we live life from the viewpoint of victims, and we are attracted by that weakness in our love and friendship relationships. 6, we have an overdeveloped sense of responsibility, and it is easier for us to be concerned with others rather than ourselves. This enables us not to look too closely at our own faults, etc. 7, we get guilt feelings when we stand up for ourselves instead of giving in to others. 8, we became addicted to excitement. 9, we confuse love and pity and tend to love people we can pity and rescue. 10, we have stuffed our feelings from our traumatic childhoods and have lost the ability to feel or express our feelings because it hurts so much. Denial. 11, we judge ourselves harshly and have a very low sense of self-esteem. 12, we are dependent personalities who are terrified of abandonment and will do anything to hold on to a relationship in order not to experience painful abandonment feelings which we received from living with sick people who were never there emotionally for us. 13, alcoholism is a family disease, and we became para-alcoholic and took on the characteristic of that disease even though we did not pick up the drink. 14, para-alcoholics are reactors rather than actors. So that's what we had, and then this is what we get. 1, we will discover our real identities by loving and accepting ourselves. 2, our self-esteem will increase as we give ourselves approval on a daily basis. 3, fear of authority figures and the need to people please will leave us. 4, our ability to share intimacy will grow inside us. 5, as we face our abandonment issues, we will be attracted by strengths to become more tolerant of weaknesses. 6, we will enjoy feeling stable, peaceful, and financially secure. 7, we will learn how to play and have fun in our lives. 8, we will choose to love people who can love and be responsible for themselves. 9, healthy boundaries and limits will become easier for us to set. 10, fears of failure and success will leave us as we intuitively make healthier choices. 11, with help from our ACA support group, we will slowly release our dysfunctional behaviors. And my favorite, gradually, with our higher powers' help, we will learn to expect the best and get it.
Good stuff. Good stuff, Blake. Brian, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I'm glad you agreed to come on. I know it's not an easy decision to come on because A, a lot of people don't know what we're going to talk about, and B, we're getting vulnerable and open and honest and emotional, and it's like a lot of people don't want to go there, and I get that, I get that they don't want to go there. It's sometimes feels safer not to go there, but for me, the only way through pain and suffering and grief is to go through it and to open it up and find the love that's definitely there on the other side. So I guess this is a podcast about relationships, like it says in our tagline, and the first real relationships we have are with our parents and our siblings growing up. And I know you and I have discussed a little bit about some of our childhood stuff. So why don't you kind of give us like a description or just give us a little look at what it looked like growing up in your household and how that had an impact on you.
Wow. Okay. Perfectly comfortable being vulnerable one-on-one, but then the idea of doing this on a podcast.
It's just three of us.
It's just three of us. No one.
There are three of us now.
Yeah, no
right?
one listens to our podcast. Just,
But it's going to be like rabbits.
Just like
I mean, it's just
our
gonna multiply
our
from here.
moms
Yeah.
and like maybe two other people. No one really listens, so you're fine.
I grew up the youngest of four. My father had two through a previous marriage, and my mother had one. My brothers were 7 to 10 years older than me and had left the house. But very dysfunctional household, to say the least. My mom was bipolar and very, very difficult to read as a child. You know, you never know what you're going to get. You know, every time you turn around, do you think it's going to be one way? And it's exactly the opposite. She would accuse me of doing a lot of things, which is now carried over into my adult life. That's a big trigger for me that I didn't do. And then I would argue, as I'm pretty adept at doing and have gotten better at as I've gotten older, and then punish me with the equivalent of solitary confinement, of which I would rebel against. And then she would proceed to ramp my father up, who'd be working in a remote location Monday through Thursday. He would be gone, and Thursday night he would come home, and she would get him so amped up, and he was a rageaholic. And
Alcoholic too, or just rageaholic?
I wouldn't call him an alcoholic. He drank, but not. I didn't witness him drinking to excess very often at all. You know, just more of on a rare occasion. You know, from a social perspective, that maybe got a little out of control, but not very often. But he would come in. I think I've told you this because this is pretty common. Throw his briefcase up against the wall, grab me by the hair when I was light enough to drag, and proceed to drag me the equivalent of probably 100 feet into my room, throw me up against the wall, or my closet doors was a common one, which would knock them off the hinges, and then proceed to begin beating the ever-living shit out of me. And
how old were you when this started?
Oh, I was very young. Yeah, it really started to ramp up around 6 or 7 when I was starting to get a little bit more independent in my thinking and what have you. But then all the while, my mom is in the background screaming, "Frank, stop!" You know, just begging him to stop after she's begged him to.
I mean, she egged him on, and then she's like getting scared. You know?
Yeah. So, and then I would be again on that solitary confinement train for anywhere from 1 to 4 weeks. So just totally unable to communicate with friends or outside world or anything, and it was pretty awful. So
yeah, I don't know if you remember some of those laundry list traits we read, but those are traits that our children use to deal with very dysfunctional situations. And I know I had situations where I felt scared to death when I was 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and I used some of those traits, like, how do I diffuse my mom and dad's anger? Like, what can I do to diffuse their anger so I feel safe? Like, anything to get myself to feel safe, I would do. Lying, people pleasing, anything I could do to feel that I could be safe and loved, I would do. And that's what a lot of that laundry list stuff is it is coming from a place.
Tough to hear.
It's tough to hear.
The whole list, yeah.
And as an adult, I used a lot of that, for many, many years. Now I catch myself when I start to people please, looking for validation, looking for other people to like me. I was at Steak 44 on Thursday night, and there's a bunch of people I knew there, and they're drinking and doing business, and I'm there with my son and another guy, and I'm like, the old me would have just engaged with them and talked to them and ignored my son. But the new me is like, well, fuck that. I want to be with my son and this other guy and be in conversation. I don't care what they say or think or, view me at all. But that's new behavior. Mm-hmm. For many, many years, I'm like, I got to be the guy that's getting the pats on the back. And yeah, way to go, Todd. Good to see you. High five. Because I didn't get that as a kid.
Right.
I wasn't held.
Right.
I wasn't, unconditionally loved. I was conditionally loved, but not unconditionally loved, you know? So I appreciate your vulnerability and your openness. So what are some of the things you did when you were young to deal with it? I mean, did you isolate? Did you just start reading? Did you play sports? Like, how did you get out of that trauma, emotional trauma?
A lot of it was just doing whatever I could to appear better. I was constantly seeking positive attention, and so I did incredibly well in school. I graduated third in my class in high school, and I was really a conglomerate of the three brothers. I had one that was kind of a nerdy, leader. He was a student body president and, valedictorian of his class. Another one that was an athlete and pretty good student, and another one that was a complete partier. And I was all three of them combined. And probably would have graduated higher in my class, but I kind of gave up because I didn't have a chance at winning the big prize, so to speak. But sports, worked really, really hard at every single thing that I did, trying to make myself feel better, but it was all about external love and trying to get that external attention, positive attention, and never seemed to quite get it. I got it from a lot of other people, but I was just horrible at receiving compliments, accolades, love from outside third parties because I didn't get it from the source that I think I needed it the most, which was
your parents,
my folks. Yeah, when you said, conditional versus unconditional, that really hit home.
Yeah. Mine, if I got in trouble at school or my room was a mess, I definitely didn't feel like I was loved and approved and wanted there, But if I did everything I was supposed to do for that brief moment, I felt, okay, I'm safe, I'm loved. But, that's terrifying for a kid to not know, are you safe or you're not safe,
Might be understatement of the century.
Yeah.
And did you use sports as an escape? Because I know for me growing up, I used sports to try to, one, get that outside approval, but two, it wasn't an escape for me.
I don't know about escape, but it was really about that outside approval. Yeah. And I always looked for places where I could get that more of that family feeling, and get that love and attention of my brothers that I was competing with. And I fought for that too, because I was really not a naturally gifted athlete. And so then I was the guy that worked, 4, 5, 10 times as hard as everybody else.
Was it team sports or? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So football, a little bit of basketball, and then I also, where I really excelled was golf. So an individual sport.
Yeah. We're both individual sport guys. So
yeah.
He's the golfer.
He's the tennis player.
So tell me, how was your relationship with your siblings? Because I know for me, I was so scared, insecure, and unsure of myself that I didn't have a loving, safe relationship with my sister. Because if I made her look bad, I would look better. And I didn't want to open up to her and be vulnerable because I didn't know how to. But also, I never got close to her because I didn't know how to get close to anybody. So I just, she was my sister. She was there. I had to accept it and just kind of went about my business. So I don't know how your relationship with your siblings, and it sounds like there was a little bit more of an age gap. Mine was 2 years.
Mm-hmm. 7 years makes it difficult, because you're just at two totally different places in terms of your development, as a young adult. But I always craved to have a relationship really with anybody, to be quite honest with you. And I don't like surface relationships. I'm always looking to go very deep with any relationship or any person that I associate with, but really tried to, and still to this day, have incredibly close relationships with my siblings. So
that's great.
Yeah.
And you said you have three brothers?
Mm-hmm.
That's great. So Ryan and I know each other originally because my son Grayson and his daughter Bailey started going to school together here locally. What year did Bailey start New Way? Do you remember?
No, I don't. Trevor was the first, and then Bailey came in after.
So the old campus.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we're going back we're probably going back 15 years ish.
17, 18.
17.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're, go back a long way. And I remember Ryan, being involved at the school level and, helping endorse some of the leaders that were there there was a coup against one of the leaders to get her out. And so I remember Ryan very well, not knowing him and just, knowing of him more so. And, kind of looking up to him as someone who is doing what he feels is best for the school, but also like his own values and ethics. So I do remember that and appreciate that. So our kids went to school together from an early age. Trevor and Bailey and Grayson, and I remember, a lot of good times at those schools. I mean, when I think about Grayson, I have a lot of videos and pictures of him just really excelling and being and feeling his best in the New Way experience, So it was such a, blessing for me. So talk a little bit about your experience with Bailey and Trevor at New Way and how it made you feel as a parent, how, you and your wife worked with that, because it's not that easy, going through that experience at New Way. It's not the traditional school, right? So, to say the least.
Yeah.
But it's a school, I think, where they allow the kids to excel and feel good about themselves.
Yeah, it was really an evolution, right? You've got your kids that are not neurotypical and are generally treated poorly by other kids in the more public school system. And so you're just craving for your child to be accepted. And so then you find New Way and you're just incredibly, feel blessed that you finally found this, really safe spot for your kid. And then it's like, okay, now educate my kid, so there was, you have this honeymoon period and then you're really just trying to push to get the best possible education as they could get. But it was a really good spot for them. I mean, back then, I think it was a 6-to-1 student staff ratio. I don't know if it's still at that same ratio today, but it was just totally different and really what they needed in order to provide them the platform to learn and, more importantly, to grow as young kids and then eventually young adults.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's a special place.
It's a special place, and I know Grayson and I and Julie went through 9 schools before we found New Way. And I remember Dawn saying, we don't have a spot for him, we're full. And I think it was her tactic to see how bad we wanted it. I think she had every intention of getting us in, but she wanted to see the willingness and how bad we wanted to get Grayson in that school. And we did. And we were like devastated and cried when she told us that. And the next day she called and she goes, a spot opened up and, he's in. This was 3rd grade, So she used a little bit of her,
I don't think Tyra gave her the space to do that because my wife is just an absolute warrior mom, and she came in there guns a-blazing.
Yeah,
there wasn't going to be assume the sales
or call the police.
Yeah.
We're not leaving.
Yeah. So I'm very grateful for that and that experience and those memories. Talk a little bit about, because you and I share something that no 2 parents should ever have to share. Our two babies have transitioned and passed, and I'm going to get emotional, but no 2 parents should have to share this, but we do, and we have to go on with life, and we have to be present for those that we love, and I know we both went through a transition of how we came back into our reality after our kids passed on, and we share some of the modalities that we used. So talk a little bit about, how that have impacted your life, your family's life, and how you deal with it today.
Boy, there's a lot to unpack there. Not a club that I ever wanted to be a part of. Very, very difficult, for when you first hear the word cancer. I know we had different methods of transition. But when you first hear that, it's a little devastating. But of course, I rolled up my sleeves and was going to figure out how I was going to be a part of helping beat it when traditional medicine didn't seem to be doing what it needed to do. But ask me the question again, because
Yeah. So how did you deal with the trauma and the insane emotion that goes with that? I mean, the surreal experience that your kid is no longer in physical body and here, and how do you deal with that, and how do you go on? Because I know for me, there was a period, and I still have days where I just don't think I can go on, but they're a lot less and fewer than they were back when it first happened. And it just, how do you get through something like that? How do you provide hope and love to your family and others, and going through, something so tragic as that?
I think first and foremost, I don't think I got through it right away. But I did lean into the grief a lot better than, or at least my definition better, because I think Tyra had already mourned Bailey's loss. For some reason, she knew that we were going to lose her, and I don't know how. It's that mother's intuition. She was diagnosed in late January and passed away on June 20th, in 2021. She actually passed away on Father's Day. Some people think of that as being a horrible thing, and I look at it as she stuck around for one last Father's Day for her dad, know. But I was lucky enough to have, I've got amazing people around me, both friends and also inside of our wonderful organization. We're so blessed to have such incredibly talented, but more importantly, loving and supportive people. We've got some of the best people on the planet that we work with, and then friends. But that wasn't enough. I began to self-medicate to get through it. Going through COVID, you go through that transition of everything shut down. So now you live at your home, the bar, and the office, and never really drank at home very much prior to COVID, and then started drinking on occasion at home, which was very rare for me. And then fast forward to after losing Bailey, even into her sickness, I had to stay present, so I couldn't really do much of that, but started to drink more and more often. There were more weeks where there wasn't a day where I didn't have at least a couple of cocktails, and then it got to be to a point where I would drink to excess a couple days a week, and just was not on a really healthy path. I was looking for any way to kind of detach myself from the current journey that I was on, and self-medicate, and in some ways try to get myself back into burying myself a little bit in my work as well. But it was not easy. Did it take a while just before you started to be able to work? Because I know for me, I couldn't even think about work for like 5 or 6 months. Like I just stayed at the house with the family, and I just couldn't get out of my head to go work, which I know would have helped me, and people told me it would help me, but it took me a while to get there. It was probably 2 months before I started to really lean back into work, and then gradually started to work more and more. But I don't think I stayed away from it as much, and a lot of it had to do with a sense of responsibility, because a lot of my efforts and what I do is what provides for those wonderful people that I talked about earlier. And so there was just a sense of responsibility to make sure that things kept going. Yeah. But even through that whole process, and things were going incredibly well, I started to realize that I was unable to really love myself, number one, and couldn't understand why my wife was even with me, We've been married 30 and a half years at this point. But at that point, over 25 years, it's like, why? I am not that great a person. And then you hear how wonderful a person and how great a leader and how successful you are. And it
you
just,
don't believe them?
No, it feels like you're pulling one over on people. It's like, when is this train gonna, run its course, and people are gonna finally figure out I'm just a fucking fraud, to be quite honest with you. But, I've, thank God I've been able to make that transition, over really the last, 12 to 14 months has been a huge breakthrough. But I ended up totally cutting things off with my folks. They didn't call at all. They didn't call me for the last 70 days of Bailey's life, and I didn't understand it. It didn't make any sense whatsoever. If I had a grandchild that was terminal, you couldn't keep me away. You'd have to tell me to not be there. And they just not only weren't there, they didn't call. And then my dad finally called me on Father's Day, and I answer the phone, and he says, "Happy Father's Day." And I was like, "No, Pop, it's not really Happy Father's Day." And he's like, "Oh, come on. What could be so bad?" And I said, "Well, your granddaughter's going to pass away in the next hour or so." This is 9:30 in the morning. She passed away at 10 after 11. And he just said, "Uh-oh." And I was like, what the fuck kind of response is that?
Yeah.
Are we okay cussing here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I just said, I got to go. And I hung up the phone. And 4 days later, I was out with two of my brothers and one of my colleagues from work. And I was just sitting there kind of staring into space. And I just said, you know what, I got to do this. And they had no idea what I was doing. I got up from the table, called them and said, "Listen, I forgive you guys, but I'm not going to let you hurt me or my family or anybody else anymore. Just don't want to have any contact. Don't attempt to reach out to the kids. Don't reach out to me. Don't want you in our lives anymore." And so that was the last time that I've spoken to them since then. So
you finally spoke your truth.
Finally spoke my truth. Yeah, my brothers were a little envious because I was out from underneath their crazy wrath. They've since now pretty much alienated all four of us, and that's been probably tough for them. But just not a good situation.
After the tragedies that we've shared, I know for me, I have made a choice to surround myself around love, vulnerability, and, people that want to be in my life and that want to be there for me and that allow me to be there for them. So for me, I'm not interested, whether it's family or friends or anybody, being in a relationship where I feel unsafe, feel unloved, feel judged. I want to feel, warm, held, and safe, really. I don't know how much longer I have in this body, but I'm done being in the situation where I'm just, not where I want to be, not comfortable in my own body. I call it walking on eggshells. I've dated a lot of women where I'm walking on eggshells. I've been in a lot of business relationships where I'm walking on eggshells. I've been in a lot of family situations where I'm walking on eggshells. There's no more eggshells in my life,
I found myself, and again, like I said, I've been really blessed and good at surrounding myself with those types of people. But there's a difference between surrounding yourself and then not being able to receive it, and that creates a conflict within that is really hard to deal with. It's like you've got all this love and positive energy and affection and attention and support and all of the things that you need, but you just aren't able to receive it. And that's been a big transition for me, is to get to the point where I can actually receive some of these blessings that I've been able to, just the beautiful, beautiful souls that I've got surrounding me, including my wife. And most importantly, my wife. My wife is one of the most amazing, beautiful, gentle, supportive souls on the planet. I mean, she's just absolutely incredible.
Sounds like we have the same wife. I am right there with you. And I mean, my wife's just ditto, basically what you just said. And I'm so grateful and blessed. And I can receive that love now. And I can receive that joy. And I feel it when I'm with my wife, cuddling, watching a movie. I feel that energy and that love. I feel it when I'm with people that I really am comfortable with. I feel it with my dogs. I have 2 puppies that are 7 months old. I feel that love, and it just radiates through my body, because I believe we're spiritual beings having a human experience. Who I truly am is this spiritual being. And that's why Grayson will always be with me, in this body and the next. And I can still feel him, in my dreams and just in my everyday life. And, it's the narrative and the story that we tell ourselves and how I carry that on. And my ex-wife, Grayson's mother, who's literally my best friend, I was on her podcast last week, Psychedelic Journeys, and 2 weeks ago, and she said something on that podcast that really stuck with me. And I told her this yesterday. She said something on that podcast. She goes, I don't carry the story with me of the sadness and grief of Grayson. I carry the magnificence and amazing person that he is into my reality of my everyday life.
It's powerful.
Yeah. Because I tend to carry the sorrow, how much pain he was in at the end, just, the heartache, and he's not here physically. Like, I'll carry that story, and she's like, I dropped that story, and I'm carrying the magnificence of who he is with me today. He's not bound by emotions and body anymore. He is free to be the amazing magnificence of his divinity and his eternal, energy and source of who he is today. And she really runs with that and has done an amazing job of helping other grieving families too, because she does counsel other grieving families that have lost a loved one, especially children.
But this is something that you still struggle with. Sounds
not
like you're transitioning.
I'm transitioning, but I still beat myself up. And I know we've talked about this of like, I could have done this, I should have done that. And it's, it's that little kid who's in trouble. It's that 6-year-old who didn't clean his room, who's getting dragged by his hair to his room and thrown against the closet door. You fucker, why didn't you do this or that or whatever? And that voice sometimes, not often, but sometimes plays like, why the fuck didn't you do this or do that? And, if you did all that, he would be here today, and that's a voice that doesn't serve me or anybody or Grayson today. But it's a voice that lives because I experienced that as a kid. Mm-hmm. I experienced that trauma. Basically, you're not good enough. You fucked up. It's your fault. And I have to have a voice as an adult to say, no, this is what was supposed to happen. It was a horrible accident. It's not your fault. I love you, Todd. I'm here for you, and I'm going to hold you. Adult Todd talking a little hurt Todd, as a child. And that's a powerful relationship and engagement and conversation and emotion. And I do that, from time to time. So, for some reason, my ex doesn't have some of that childhood stuff maybe that I experienced. So she's able to leave it and be present and stay in love and gratitude, Some
of it, though, Bailey was, she had neurofibromatosis, and it comes along with a whole host of comorbid conditions, including scoliosis, emotional and mental health issues, learning disability, ADD. And she was a really, really difficult kid. Funny. She was the counterpoint. I often describe her as the counterpoint in my soul. So there's this big gap now in our family, especially for me, because of how we would play off of each other and interact. But she was hard, really, really hard to deal with. And at some points she, threatened to hurt herself. And it was, without this sounding the wrong way, it was almost cute because you knew that she could never do it. And so, but there were times where we would be so frustrated with her. It was like, I'd have these thoughts. Maybe it would be easier if she just wasn't here, and then when she, because it was really that hard. It was toxic especially for our youngest, who's 18 now. Bailey would have been 26. And so, you felt like that was creating an environment for her that wasn't healthy to grow up, which it wasn't. And then fast forward to her getting cancer, you start to go, did I manifest this? Did I bring this on? And it was at a point where she was just beginning to hit her stride and doing things that we never thought she was going to be capable of doing. And she was really on a path that you want to, it's almost like a movie ending right in the middle of the good part. You want to know what happened, how did this turn out? And we weren't able, but some of that I found myself blaming myself, thinking maybe I caused this in some way. I put it out there in the universe, which I know is not true. Like you said, we're on a specific path and nobody really knows what that path is, and it plays itself out. And she lived her story and her journey the way she was supposed to. Mm-hmm. And we're all living our own. But it's been hard, but then just missing her, And
I always say
I don't remember all the shitty stuff.
Right.
And
Grayson too, was not the easiest kid to raise. And, you don't realize, I didn't realize how much I loved him until he was gone. I really didn't. And, boy, I miss the shit out of him every day. And, I don't think about the hard times and, the difficult times. I just, it's the missing of someone after they're physically gone, that you realize how much you really love them, and I can love him, and I know he feels it today. But like you said, that was his journey to die at 23, and for us to experience this, as parents and siblings, and come together as a family and love each other even more, and realize how precious life really is. And I know me and my son Bond have gotten closer, and me and my wife Alex have gotten closer, and me and Julie have gotten closer, and me and my parents. I have gotten closer to my parents, and I never thought that was possible. And we're much closer today than we have ever been. And they're in their 80s, mid 80s. I don't know how much longer they have.
Right.
So just love. And I try to stay in the present moment, because when I go back of what I should have done, could have done, all that shame, or the future, like I can't get through this, or, something bad can happen to somebody else. Like I can't live in the future of the past. I have to live in the present moment and be grateful for what's happening in my life today. Mm-hmm. And my good friend who lost his son passed away at 21. He told me the other day, he's like, Todd, we just got to get to the pillow tonight. And he goes, my motto since Matthew passed away, his son, is motion takes care of the emotion, the sadness. Just keep moving. Don't sit at home feeling sorry for yourself. Keep moving. Motion will get you to that pillow. And I love that, because there are days where, I just don't feel like going to the office, or I don't feel like working out, or I don't, he's like, just keep going, keep moving.
It's funny because I say motion is lotion.
Yeah.
Motion is what, gives you the lubricant to make it through and continue to see what the journey is going to bring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
But the biggest thing for me, though, was just learning how to accept me, warts and all,
mm-hmm.
Because I'm not perfect. And I carried on some of my father's traits, probably not to the same degree, but I would have these moments of just losing my cool, with my wife and my kids. And, I would always rationalize it that it would be, I was like 99.5 or 99%, happy-go-lucky, wonderful to be around Dad. But then I'd have these 1%, moments that would just dominate every other thought that my kids had of me. And, I was doing it based on the law of the larger number. It should overrule that complete idiotic, just loss of cool and consciousness, to be quite honest. And I don't have those at all. I get mad just like any of us do, but don't have the same level of just totally losing it. But it's had a big impact on my kids, and I've been having to really work hard to help them heal as I've been on my own healing journey, which has been tough to watch. It's been really difficult, and it was me. It was just it was yelling. It was not physically abusing them or anything else. So then I would always. It's that theory of relativity, you guys have no idea what a really difficult and traumatic situation is, but I was trying to relate my own trauma to theirs, which you can't. Everybody's trauma is based on their own personal experience, and mine was horrific, but it doesn't make it theirs any less than what mine was. Yeah. And so that's been hard. It's been a difficult pill to swallow that I've caused others, people that I really care about and love. Some difficult moments in their life that have had an impact on other things that they do. But we've been really working to talk our way through that, and taking responsibility for it was a big first step for me.
And when I hear that, it's like, I got to remember to give myself grace and forgiveness. In fact, this tattoo here, Grayson gave this to me after he passed in a dream and in several awake moments, forgiveness, love, and kindness, he put. And then this is actually in his handwriting, and he misspelled forgiveness. And which is great because he's dyslexic, And he's like, Dad, it's not just for other people. It's for yourself. You're a human being. We're here to have emotion. We're here to have all range of emotions. We're not here to be saints. And the fact that I have emotions means I'm living the human experience. But he's like, this quote, forgiveness, love, and kindness to yourself. Give yourself grace. Hold yourself. You're not bad. If you yell at someone, you're not bad. If you cut someone off in traffic, you're not bad. So he keeps reminding me to not go to the shame and the guilt and the self-criticism, and that's important because I can tend to go back there. Like, why did I do that? And then the other part is like living amends for me is way more important than saying I'm sorry and apologizing. So what am I going to do in the future? And because I remember when I was drinking, I've been sober 25 years. When I was drinking, Julie said to me, just stop apologizing. Stop saying I'm sorry. Just change your behavior and your thoughts, please. And I'm like, because my words meant nothing anymore. Like I had to change the behavior. And I'm a big believer in that today. It's just like, just change, who I am in the relationship.
Easier said than done.
It is.
Yeah.
But also giving myself grace.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to be this perfect guy. And everyone's situation is different. Everyone's reality is different. I mean, my reality is based on my thoughts. Your reality is based on your thoughts. Your reality is based on your thoughts. And like, I can't get inside of your body. So my reality and my experience in this human body is mine only. And it's like, when someone yells at me, I might have a reaction of like, it didn't bother me. I appreciate it. Someone else might fall apart and want to hurt themselves. Like everyone's reaction is going to be different, and I know for me, like, my two boys are completely different. And I think we kind of raised them the same way. So you just never know. like how someone's going to react. And I think part of it's environment, but part of it's DNA and in the soul that comes into that body, because there's no way the environment was that different from, you know, different kids, you know. So, you know, I just do the best I can and you know, love people as much as I can love them without losing myself, like losing my morals, ethics, boundaries, you know, not being the people pleaser, being who I am, but with unconditional love. I don't love my dad's behavior at sometimes. I don't love my mom's behavior at sometimes. I don't love my wife's behavior sometimes. But, you know, I got to love them unconditionally and let them have their experience, their human experience, their life. And that gives me, you know, pleasure that I don't have to judge and change and control other people. Because that's where the pain comes in. I should have done this with Grayson.
Fictitious anyway.
Yeah.
We're not really in control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, oh, if I just would have done that, and that, then I would have made a lot more money in that business deal. Yeah, okay. You know, like, tell me another dream, another story. It's like, what's supposed to happen happened. And that sometimes is hard to hear. But like you said, that was Bailey's journey. This was Grayson's journey. We all, I think, come into this life to have our journeys, however long or short in time, what we consider time, but it's living in the present moment, I think, for me, of love and being just present. Like, you see so many people in their phones all day long, and it's like they're not living in reality. They're living in the phone, in the distraction.
Right.
You know, so.
But we can't, you know, what I really found was I couldn't, even though I was good at showering love outward, I couldn't really truly love others unconditionally until I was able to love myself unconditionally. And getting to that point, first it was a realization that that's what I needed to do. And so you and I have talked about the journey with psychedelics, and that really saved my life. I got to a really, really dark point in the second year after Bailey passed. And that's one of the reasons I reached out to you, because I'd taken a social media diet, you know, because I would have all these memories come up on Facebook and Instagram and what have you, and just wanted to try to distance myself from the constant reminders. And it was seeing a post that you had posted about Gray, and I felt horrible that I had missed that, you know, because I was not there. So I immediately reached out to you, text you, and because I realized you were entering into the second year, which was the hardest year for me. You know, those year first, the first birthday, first Christmas, first Thanksgiving, you know, without them. And then the second year, it just really starts to set in. And going through, and then in the middle of a journey, just really realizing that because it's almost like you're outside of yourself and you're seeing this movie play out, and you're able to almost be a critic of your own life in a very loving and observant way. And I realized that I could never, because you go in with these intentions to learn to love yourself and to appreciate who you are. And I realized that I could never truly love myself until I got rid of the hate that I had in my heart, and the hate that I had for my parents, even though I had moved on from them and I had let go. And I said I forgave them. I hadn't really truly forgave them. I was still carrying that shit around and had a lot of hate and resentment. And I realized in the middle of that journey that I didn't have to hate them. I didn't have to have hate in my heart. I didn't have to love them. I didn't have to love and appreciate them. But I sure as hell didn't have to hate them. And by letting go of that hate, it gave me the space to learn how to truly love myself. So, yeah,
that's powerful. That's very powerful. And I know from me in my life, I don't have a lot of anger towards other people. I I can't think of one person right now that I'm angry at, you know, and that's the first. I remember working out in my 20s at the Village, and I would be on the treadmill looking out to the workout room and the basketball, you know, the Village. And I'd look out to the basketball and the workout room, and I would literally assassinate all these people's characters as I was working out. Like, oh, that guy cheats on his wife, and that guy, you know, he's full of shit in business, and that guy just bought a jet. And I would just sit there and just judge and assassinate everyone's character for an hour and be like, okay, I'm done running for an hour. I'm like, wow, I feel like shit. Like, I don't do that anymore.
But when we do that, it's almost a reflection of how
we feel about
viewing of
ourselves. Right.
Yeah, it's not.
And
it's
I hated
not,
myself. That's why I was drinking to oblivion all the time. And that's why I got sober, is because I hated myself. And, you know, but it just showed me where my thoughts were in my early 20s, like just dark. And it was a reflection of how I felt about myself coming out to the outside world.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm just so grateful I got sober when I did, and allowed the self-love to start coming in, you know, allowed it to start coming in. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate you saying that. You know, you can't really love yourself until you let go of the hate, you know, towards other people. Because I truly believe that to be the case. If
It's
I'm out
poison
there,
for your soul. Just absolute, utter poison for your soul.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, to live in resentment and anger and hate is really the opposite of love, in my opinion, you know. So, wow, time really flies when you're having fun. Any other final words for, you know, our listeners about relationships, about grieving, you know, I mean, anything that, because I know a lot of our listeners struggle with their relationships, whether it be romantic or with, you know, family. And then also there's a lot of listeners who have grieved the loss of loved ones. So any advice for our listeners going through the struggle right now?
The one thing that I've learned through my journey is that, and you hear this a lot, you know, grief is a fingerprint. It's unique to each individual, and not to judge others, but more importantly, not to judge yourself in how you're going through that grief journey. You have to go through it the way that you're meant to go through it, which you're not going to know what that is until you really open yourself up and lean into it in your own way. Like I said, my wife, you know, I used to look at her going, how can you not be in the same spot that I am, you know? And
exactly.
And
how are you laughing right now, right?
Yeah, exactly. But she was there for me. And like I said, you know, looking back, I think she had gone through her mourning and grieving period during the 5 months as Bailey was going through her battle with the sarcoma that eventually spread to her lungs and took her life. But, and then realize the things that you're doing in an unhealthy fashion to, you know, navigate through that grief journey.
To not feel.
Yeah, to not feel. Mm-hmm. And
there's so many avenues to go down that road now in modern America.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you can go to DraftKings, you can go to the liquor store, you can go get a prostitute, there's hundreds of things to not feel.
Well, you can get drunk on a lot of things.
Right.
You know, power.
It's whack-a-mole.
Work. Yeah, I mean, they're all out there. It's just a matter of really understanding where you're at in that journey, and never forget to truly love yourself and to give yourself grace. I mean, your tattoo really says it all. But I was horrible, absolutely horrible at giving myself grace, and would always fight for more approval, continuing on that childhood journey of trying to please others and make sure that everybody felt, you know, didn't feel ill of me. And if I ever did something that I wronged somebody, I would constantly go back and try to correct it, but giving yourself some grace.
If I'm not going to love myself, then I got to get you to love me and you to love me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, so I'm either giving myself love and grace or I'm trying to convince you to love me, And I would do the same thing. Like I would look at Julie and go, how can you be like so happy and in the moment? Like we should be sad. And, and Julie's like, that's not what Grayson wants. I talk to Grayson every day. He tells me he wants me to live a full life and be happy and be joyous and like spread his magnificence. But but feel the grief too, like don't ignore it, but also don't carry that. Like she says, the story, the sorrow of losing a child and being that victim the rest of your life. Carry the hope, the love, the self-care, the grace, the motion.
And helping other people navigate through the journey. Sometimes when you're a coach, you become a better player because you're talking about things that you should do. And it's almost an accountability mechanism for the soul to be able to get through that period in a way that you should be doing. And it's almost like having a spotter in the gym, a workout partner, and it can be very, very helpful.
I love connecting with people that have lost children because I feel a part of. I feel, even connecting with you when we met a couple weeks ago, it's like I just feel like that's what I should be doing because it helps me and it helps the other person. I have 2 calls out this week to people that whose children have passed on, and one hasn't called me back yet, and I know how hard that is to make that call because it brings up emotion.
It's tough. We just lost one of our former interns who is a high school standout, football player here locally at Chaparral, and just a world beater, and went on to Michigan and started every game.
Wow.
He holds the record for on the defensive, I think probably on both sides of the ball, but and then went on to play a little pro football. And during a period where he was taking a break, he came in and interned with us. His name is Craig Rowe. Just amazing.
I know Fred very well.
And so I reached out to Fred and just said, hey, when the time is right, let me know. I'm here for you. And
he's on my list to call.
Yeah,
I've known Fred for 30 years.
Amazing kid this guy was. I mean, just sad, to be gone at the age of 33 with a young son and a beautiful wife and an amazing family. But and whenever those people are ready, just making yourself available, I think is very powerful.
And you never know what's going to work. I mean, I'm sober 25 years, and I was in so much pain and in so much despair that, like, I have no idea what my future is going to, look like. And then my ex-wife comes to me and goes, Todd, I think you should try a journey with me and through psychedelics, because it could help unlock and release some of this pain you're in. And I'm like, Julie, you don't know what the fuck you're talking. Just shut up. Like, but eventually I went back to her and said, okay, I'm ready to try something different. And I did that, and it changed my life.
It does.
It changed my life.
I'll remember the day that I was kind of introduced to it. I've been curious about it, but I'll never forget that day where I met a buddy of mine for lunch, and he'd always been a really happy-go-lucky guy, but there was almost like this light was turned on inside of him, and I looked at him and I was like, what are you doing? What's going on? And he told me, and I immediately went home and logged on and to the website of this place that he went to and registered, and then got the phone call after I filled out the medical form that I couldn't do it because I was taking an SSRI at the time. And then I tried to get off of many times, and I was just devastated. And I was like, screw this. I have to have whatever he was, he was doing. And so I did that. And that was the beginning. I titrated off of the SSRI and immediately went as early as I could possibly go to an ayahuasca retreat in outside of Joshua Tree. That was it was life changing. Still went through a horrific journey, going through withdrawals on the medication I was on, even after the Aya journey, but then have done several other things that have just been absolutely transformative, not just in terms of my relationship with myself, but my relationship with my past, my relationship with the people around me, trauma, you name it. It's an incredibly powerful, again, setting, preparing the body, not doing it in a recreational, sense, which I always viewed it as being for hippies and folks to just disconnect. And it's so much more powerful than that if done properly.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Someone asked me, like, what do psychedelics do to you, Todd? I'm like, it allows me to see my ego and body for what it is, and allows me to see the divinity and oneness of God and all of us together. I mean, like, that simple. Like, I can see my ego and all my hurts in the psychedelics, and then I could see the oneness and God living inside of me too. It's like, it's this crazy duality that I can see when I'm on psychedelics that I can't see when I can see, but it's not as profound when I'm on psychedelics. And it's hard to explain, but it's a beautiful thing.
Oh, it's 10 to 15 years of therapy in one night in some cases. It's incredible, the breakthroughs that you can have in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
But
well, thank you for coming on, Ryan. I really, really appreciate it. Appreciate your honesty, vulnerability, and your openness to share with Blake and I and our listeners. We look forward to seeing you guys next week. Please, please be nice to my friend this week. And that friend is you. And you're the most important person in your life. So please be nice to my friend. And we will see you next week on The Laundry List.